truths and rumors that don't get reported. Stories I write that are often distorted. Got my notebook and pen, and I'm ready to listen. Tell me the truth, I'll consider your position. I've seen killers with eyes so cold and dead, and others go to prison because of what someone said, rotting away for the rest of their lives, leaving a hole here on the outside. Things are sad here on Earth, and it's no wonder why, when you consider the sociopaths who remain in charge. It's me who sees the system for all its flaws, and I usually start with the probable cause. My right hand is reading the probable cause. Welcome to The Probable Cause. This is a podcast covering the criminal justice system in Allen County, Indiana, northeastern Indiana, and the state of Indiana. I'm Jamie Duffy, your host and a locally based journalist, and to my left over there is Michael McAlexander. He is the Allen County Prosecutor. Before I talk about my right hand, Stacey Davis, I want to welcome our guest today, Quinton Ellis. Normally he's on the other side of the probable cause, but today we're going to talk about something that brings us together, and that is the lack of diversity in the legal ranks here. But back to Stacey. We are mourning the loss of my right hand, whose name was Stacey Davis. Stacey left us just 2 days ago on Monday evening around 7:30 p.m. Stacey is survived by her mother, Sherry, her daughter, Lindsay Wunderlich, who was a wonderful bedside presence these last weeks, her dear son, Kyle, and her life partner, Michael Abbott, who supported her mission entirely. Of course, there are other family members I haven't mentioned. The last time I saw Stacey was Sunday evening. I sat next to her and read her 3 probable cause affidavits, cases that were scheduled and then either continued or were the subject of plea deals. I believe she appreciated it because she reacted even though she was in horrific pain. She never made any secret on this show that she was struggling with a battle against cancer. And I do hope someday that we can subdue that terrible disease. I read these probable cause affidavits to her as a way to distract her from the pain, a way to make things normal as she transitioned into another sphere where so many of us feel her son, Cody. He was struck down by a bullet to the chest in December 2016, and he was waiting for her. We're pretty sure that he was. Because of that horrible loss that no mother or father should ever live through, she made it her mission to help others in the same situation through investigations and trials.
My name is Stacey Davis, and I lost my son, Cody McCann, to murder on December 6th of 2016. It took weeks for it to really set in that he was even gone. 2 months later, I found myself still picking up the phone to call him to see if he was up for work, to make sure he was having dinner. I mean, the pain was undescribable, and dealing with his things and having to clean out his house, dealing with all of the stuff that the funeral home gives you. I couldn't even do it for several months. It took probably 6 months before I was able to even look at these things, his ashes, the stuff from the funeral home. This is a board that his friends put together. They had a little get-together the night before his funeral, and all of his friends got together and signed it and said their goodbye messages to him.
It's difficult to quantify the impact she had on the criminal justice system, and I know Mike agrees with me on this. Not just the families of the homicide victims, but the Allen County Prosecutor's Office started to rely on her when they brought in those families. Here's what Chief Deputy Prosecutor Tom Shaley said in a statement. This is just part of his statement. I was always glad to look back and see her in the courtroom because I knew those families were getting good advice. Chief Counsel Tessa Helge, who also got to know her and relied on her, said this: a rare person who truly understood both the way a death by homicide takes a forever toll on a family, as well as the way a murder case must travel through the criminal justice process. She was so fierce in her mission, she would contact the media and press them to cover stories, vigils, plea deals, whatever she thought was important. So many people have posted good and fond memories of their interactions with her on Facebook and Instagram and other social media. There was one person, however, who was not so fond of Stacey Davis, and that was her son's killer, Quinton Stewart. In his appeal found online, he admitted lying and blamed it on Detective Scott Tetmeyer, who was on Quinton Stewart's case, McCann's mother, we're talking about Stacey here, and the media. She was relentless in her search for justice. Stewart came close to avoiding prison, and here's what's important. Both Mike and Quinton Ellis, a defense attorney, can tell you, you can be a big help in your case. After the first trial ended in mistrial, she worked with Tom Shaley to refine the prosecutor's case to make it more visual to appeal to the jury. And in the second one, which was in December of 2020, there was a conviction.
One of the things between Cody and I was his hugs. He was 6'5", and when he wrapped his arms around me, it was just like a big bear hug, and I feel a little bit of that each night when I cover up with his blanket.
Sometimes we gloss over the life she had before all of this. She was a mama bear, as she called herself, with an executive position in the medical field, and she had an MBA on her resume. Stacey and I came up with the idea of the podcast because we wanted to focus on the criminal justice system. She was going to be kind of like my business partner. It was my hope that eventually she would go on camera, but we never foresaw this. In 2018, she had co-founded Justice Accountability and the Victim Advocacy, or JAVA, with Amy Miller Davis, who's no relation, and they used to hold monthly meetings. The group hounded the prosecutor's office if they didn't believe they were working hard enough to bring the case to trial, and Mike can tell you about that too. They got out their chalk to write messages on the courthouse slabs and in front of the Allen County prosecutor's office. Didn't make them so popular with the legal system here at first, although I'm sure some people appreciated it. I first recall meeting her at a chalking on a very, very cold night. I was looking to interview someone and kept being referred to Stacey Davis. Wait until Stacey Davis gets here. You've got to wait for Stacey Davis. I remember her face under the lamplight. It was shining. She was excited. It was purposeful. She was finally getting to do something she felt was worthwhile. The probable cause, as in Mike, myself, and our cameraman producer, Brock Eastom, send our condolences to their family. Her mother, Sherry, is one of our biggest fans. Stacey lives on through the song I wrote for this podcast, her contributions to the podcast, and all the stories she was a part of in this city. She won't be forgotten, and that's for sure.
Well, I mean, you kind of referenced that when she first started, she was not a, shall we say, a fan of how the criminal justice system operated. But you have to give her so much credit that she kept her mind open and learned as she went through this that it was not as simple as just filing a case. I think going through the first trial and getting a mistrial, she went through all the trauma a parent could have about losing a child, and then feeling the re-victimization of a jury not coming along with you. And I think that brought her some ways over to understand what our folks go through in preparing a case and getting it ready for trial, and how disappointing it is to us and to family members when it doesn't work out the way they want it to. And then she became a great communicator. I talked to Tom Shaley this morning, who did visit her in the hospital last week. And he said he had reached a point in cases, particularly on ones that we weren't able, that we didn't feel we had enough evidence to go forward on. And we certainly recognize how frustrating that is for the families of homicide victims. But because there's no statute of limitations, there's always that possibility, if there's other people that were aware or involved in it, that those people will someday come forward.
Right.
And we've had a lot of that happen. And Stacey was invaluable in explaining that process and the credibility that if I say it or one of our deputies say it, it sounds like you're just making an excuse. And Stacy has seen enough now in the last decade that when she told other families what was going on, they believed her. And it so much helped us.
Right.
So,
and she was really good to have on the podcast. And I only wish she could have continued because she had a totally different perspective than I do and you do. and yeah, we're gonna miss her. There's no doubt about it.
More nights than not, every week, I dream either about the night that it happened or he comes to me in my dreams. And when he comes to me in my dreams, it's usually one of his big bear hugs and he's telling me everything's gonna be okay. I don't feel like everything's gonna be okay until we get justice, until I get some closure. But Cody tries to let me know it's gonna be okay.
So we're going to move on from that, though, because we asked Quinton Ellis to please come and speak to us about what he sees. He is an attorney here. Maybe we should just mention quickly, Mike, what have we got in the courts? I do believe we have a murder case this week.
Sadly, we had about 6 murder cases or close to it. I think 4 murders and an attempted murder set this week.
Right.
I believe one of them pled. A couple of other were continued for various reasons. So all of these cases were set, and we ended up trying one bench trial.
Oh.
On a pro se defendant that took this morning, and it was done by noon. So
Was that a murder trial?
No, it was a burglary trial by a gentleman, probably homeless, who wandered into a place he shouldn't have.
Oh, I think there was another one that
No, there were other things on the calendar, but everything yesterday ended up getting bumped for one reason or another.
Well, next week is always another week.
Yeah, I know,
You
but
guys, you folks will be right back at it.
It's very frustrating when all of those cases are prepared. People have worked hard to get it all ready.
Oh, yeah.
The victims are getting emotionally prepared to go in to see their trials, and then it's grabbed at the last minute.
Yeah, it's tough for everybody because you can, as an attorney, you can have one trial set the same day that other attorneys have several trials set, or you can have several trials set the same day that other attorneys have several trials set. And unfortunately, you have to prepare for every one of them as if that trial may go, because you just never know.
Yeah. We do have court congestion too. Yeah. I don't want to bang the drum on that too much today because I want to hear your story. But, you know, hopefully that will be eased this year. I have been told that this year is for Allen County. Let's get some of Quinton's story. I always thought, Quinton, that you were born here in Fort Wayne, raised here in Fort Wayne. But I think it was just a few months ago that I found out that you actually come from the South.
Yeah, I am. I was born in the South. I lived the first about 9 years of my life in the South. We moved here just a few months before I turned 9.
And that was in Mobile, Alabama?
Birmingham.
Oh, Birmingham.
I was born in Birmingham. And my dad had several brothers that had left the South. They had gotten jobs at places like B.F. Goodrich
here in Fort Wayne?
Woodburn, Fort Wayne.
Right.
GM Defiance, one of my uncles, and a couple of them were at Goodrich, one at GM Defiance. And they had friends who had come earlier. And it was part of that great migration we were talking about. My family was kind of on the tail end of that. But you had folk leaving Alabama, Mississippi, going up 65 and 55. Most people ended up in Chicago and, parts east, like Fort Wayne, Detroit.
And I think Chicago really benefited from that in the music industry.
No doubt, no doubt. I guess it was kind of a part of that, or taking place at the same time period. Chicago got a lot of those Delta blues musicians.
Yes.
That ended up there for some reason. They all made their way to Chicago.
Well, I can't imagine them coming to Indiana.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to put down Indiana, but if you were a Delta blues musician, would you move to Indiana rather than Chicago? No, you wouldn't. So, so anyway, did you feel any difference immediately? I mean, if you were 9 years old, you were perceptive by that point. What was different to you?
At first, no. The only difference was the physical environment. The South, even Birmingham, although we lived city proper, if you've heard of Legion Field, that's a very popular football sports arena where Alabama Auburn plays the Iron Bowl every year. I mean, that was walking distance from where I lived.
Well, that's kind of cool, isn't it?
Well, yeah. But it was still an inner city Birmingham neighborhood. The first thing we noted when we moved up here, my siblings and I, is that there were sidewalks everywhere.
Oh.
Outside of downtown proper, the neighborhoods didn't have sidewalks, and there weren't many street lights.
And were the roads gravel roads outside city proper?
They were they weren't gravel. They were paved roads. But you get into the and it's still the same today. You can go into parts of the rural South, and it's one of those mixed. You get mixed feelings about. It's like things have always been the same kind of a feeling, because everything, a lot of things haven't changed in terms of the red dirt roads and all of that, and not too terribly far outside of Birmingham. We're talking 30, 40 miles or so. You get into the country, and you still see a lot of that, and you still see the same kind of housing stock that a lot of my relatives, my dad's uncles, auntie, my grandfather. I don't know if I've ever told Mike this. He was a sharecropper. My father's father was born in 1900. And
your father's father was born in
1900.
1900, yes, okay.
Yes, 1900. And as a kid, I always thought that all of that land and cotton, as far as the eye you could see, was his. I mean, but you know, we were going to Granddad's farm, right? But he didn't own the land. He was a tenant farmer, like a lot of.
How many acres?
Oh, I couldn't begin to guess, but it was a lot. And
did you help him out?
No, I was too young. But my dad had 16 or 17 siblings. I say 16 or 17. I have to do the mental math again. But my grandfather had 14 kids, 14 or 15 kids by his first wife, and then he had 2 by his second wife. My grandmother, my father was in the first batch of 15, but they all worked, and that's what, you know, they all worked the farm. I remember in my 3rd grade show and tell project at my school, though, in Birmingham, my dad took me out to the farm, and we got a cotton stalk, and I showed different parts of the cotton stalk, from, you know, the seed, the, you know, so on and so forth. But no, I was too young to actually work, you know, the land. But you're talking, and it didn't click for me as a kid, because again, this was a house with a tin roof, and it sat on brick columns. And it had an outhouse and a well, no running water inside.
This was your grandpa's house?
Yeah, this is my grandpa's house. Until a tornado came through there in '74 and destroyed it, and they got on some program where they built new houses.
I hope you've got photos of this stuff.
I probably could dig some up.
I think we need to see them.
Yeah.
We like to share that with our people.
I know I do. I know I have photos of the house my dad moved to when he had enough of that living out, and that was an area of Birmingham called Brent, Alabama. It's probably 40, 50 miles.
It almost sounds like you kind of miss a place.
And that's why I go back to, it being sort of a mixed feeling you get. I mean, the nostalgia and the good times you had. Again, as a kid, I mean, we didn't know we were poor. I mean, we do things, go outside and play. And if you happen to go to a relative's house that didn't have running water and indoor toilet, but we did in Birmingham. My dad worked at a steel mill in Birmingham, so he had one of the then better jobs. Still not as well paying as the jobs in the north. The South, those steel mills weren't unionized, so they paid poorly. But it was better than working those cotton plantations.
Oh yeah, I mean backbreaking work. Well, so is the steel mills, but
yeah.
kind of a different thing.
But the pay was a little bit more commensurate with what the work you were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, the backbreaking labor in those cotton fields. I mean, and again, that whole tenant farming or sharecropping system, it was set up to where it was glorified slavery. It really was, because you made barely enough to feed yourself and your family.
Probably had like a little vegetable garden out the back, that kind of thing. I mean, anything to survive, really.
Yeah.
It's not that far from what some of our people did over in Europe, because why did they come here?
Yeah.
But of course, we know that for Black people, it was a lot worse, in my opinion. I wanted to go on to ask you what school you were enrolled in Fort Wayne.
I did. When we got here, I lived in the neighborhood. It's an immediate East Central High School, not high school, East Central neighborhood,
Right.
where Central High School is located, just to the west, like the west boundary of that neighborhood, actually. And so you go Central, due east down to Anthony Boulevard was that old neighborhood. And there was a school called Harmer Elementary. It's since torn down, is where I started when we came to Fort Wayne.
Oh, there's that Harmer Street.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
right
Yeah. It sort of dead ends to where the school was. A funeral home, I believe, sits on the property where that school was. Back then, it does. It was Carmichael Funeral Home. Is just near that U-Haul place, across from the Turner Chapel Church. So from there, I went to Memorial Park, which was a middle school back then. Fort Wayne, FWCS had elementary, middle, then junior high, then high school.
Oh.
From Memorial, I went to Northwood, got bussed out. That was the first real eye-opener and noticing a change from the South. We attended schools that were 100% Black in Birmingham. And the only real encounter that I had with white people is when I was walking downtown with my mom or one of my aunts or something, and you see white people walking around downtown Birmingham.
Wow.
And I fast forward and rewinding, I remembered having to step off the sidewalk if a white person was walking in your direction to let them pass. But that was kind of the only.
This was during, though, the civil rights movement.
Well, this is the 60s. Yeah, I'm 62 years old, so this is the we're talking the late 60s at this point.
And you still had to step off the sidewalk.
Oh, well, unquestionably. I mean, yeah, and there were, it was, there were still rules down there.
What happened if you broke them? What would happen if you did step off the sidewalk?
Oh, well, never found out. So, I mean, and as a kid, again, at that point, I'm probably 6 or 7 or 8 years old. I mean, it was just part of life, things you never really question. Well, why do we have to do this? Or what would happen if we don't? I mean, those were just never really conversations.
Well, though, but then you were a little kid.
Right.
But what about you had so many numerous family members. Were they afraid of like the Klan or,
My grandfather, who on my mother's side, a different set of circumstances, who didn't care much for my dad, because again, my dad is this rural guy and his dad was a tenant farmer. My mother's dad attended Tuskegee, and he was educated and so on and so forth. But he would tell me stories about when they moved into a nicer area, that the cross burnings on the lawn and that kind of thing. But other than that,
I just think it would be terrifying to live through something like that.
I think I was young enough.
I don't think I'd be able to go to sleep at night knowing that this is a possibility.
But the adults, they carried that burden. There's no doubt about it. And here's I'll get to that momentarily. As a kid, you don't know any better, but the adults were walking around with that with those burdens. There's no doubt about it. But I was kind of shielded from that. My mother always told me how great America was and how the only thing I had to do was study, educate myself, and I can do anything I want to do in life. And of course, that probably came from her dad, who, and he's another whole story that I get into. He was a Harlem Hellfighter. You can look those guys up.
All right.
Military. World War I. But
wow.
during the George Floyd riots, protests around the country, we had protests here in Fort Wayne.
We certainly did.
I learned something from my mother. I think a lot of those things that she experienced back then in Alabama resurfaced for her because no one knew how bad things were going to get when that whole Floyd thing started.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, I ride my bike. That's what I do for exercise. In the wintertime, I get plumper. But so I stopped by her house, and she was just kind of flabbergasted and all worried that I was riding my bike and it was getting to be dark outside, and I'm like, what the heck, what's with this? And she's like, just make sure you when you go home, I want you to go down was that Lafayette, and then I want you to go down State Street until. I'm like, that's a long way, She's like, you need to stay where there's traffic and where people can see you. She was worried that something would happen to me because of what was going on in society.
Her mid-50-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. And then she started talking about the church bombings in Birmingham. Those
4 little girls.
Exactly. And I wasn't born yet, but she talked about how that morning she was getting my older sisters ready for church when that explosion happened.
But you didn't go to that church. But
No, we went to a different church, but
okay.
It shook our house. We lived that close to that church.
Oh my God.
And so this is all starting to play in her head. Fast forward, to whenever that was, the summer 2020-ish.
Right. Started the end of May and went through, really, Mike didn't, and it went through the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
He was in the prosecutor's office.
Yeah. So it's been there, those burdens that they carried around, but and I realized
and fears.
Yeah. I say burdens, fears, yeah. And I believe a lot of those things had been repressed for all those years, and when that happened, it just all started.
So apparently she feels safer here than she did down in Birmingham.
Not necessarily, because remember, I told you our world was, and she had siblings down there. She had a sister down there. Her brothers kind of scattered. She had one brother down there, but she had a brother that went over to Cleveland. He worked for 40 years at Alcoa aluminum company. She had a brother that her oldest brother left home at 16. My grandfather signed for him. He went to the military. He did 35 years in the Air Force. He's a neat guy too. He was
Good career.
He was one of the first soldiers that when the Air Force broke off from the Army Air Corps, and they started the Air Force,
Right.
and they integrated. He was the first amongst the first integrated troops in the Air Force.
I do believe you have to have a lot of courage to do that too. To sort of like be the pioneer surrounded by other white people, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
it's kind of like being the first woman if she ever.
Yeah,
to
he
do
tells
that.
me story. She had another brother went to D.C., but I mean, Alabama was always, and it still is, even though I left at a very young age. That people say if you're born and raised in the South, it's always going to be home. So there was that too. I mean, it's like an old shoe. I mean, you go there and you know the food, the people, and all of those things are still there. So I wouldn't say that she felt safe. She feels safer here than there. They're different. It's just different, and they would people draw the distinction between the South and the North in the Black community. People have always said that racism in the South is in your face. You know where people stand. You encounter somebody, you got to know where they stand. But in the North, is more subtle, and you don't really know, where what somebody's beliefs or where they're at in that regard. So it's not a situation where if you're from the South, you feel more you're less afraid in the North. For that reason.
You just have to be on a different alert system.
Exactly.
So let's go on to, so you graduated from?
Northrop. Went from Northwood to Northrop.
Okay.
And graduated Northrop.
And so then I have from your Facebook page that you went to Indiana University. For
Straight to IU. I went on a program called Groups, Special Services. It's something along those lines. And it was for students who wouldn't, and it's still around to this day. A lot of rural kids go there as well. It was designed for people who may not typically ordinarily consider college as a path. They take you through the summer program.
But did you always know you wanted to go to college?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Because the neighborhood I grew up in here, we were fortunate in that regard. Not only that, I mean, the people, again, particularly in my mom's family, then some of the younger people got older than me, and my dad's family. I mean, they went to college, HBCUs in the South. So
nice.
It was always in the back of my mind. By the time I was a sophomore at Northrop, I was already planning on being an attorney at that point.
I was going to ask you about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but I went on this program.
But what made you want to be an attorney? What on earth made you want to be an attorney?
Well, you talked about the neighborhood you grew up in was Black, but it had a lot of teachers, educated, and a group of young men that were ambitious.
Yeah, it was
good students, and
it was a very dynamic neighborhood.
What was the neighborhood called?
It's called East Central, and
okay.
And we had people like Liz Dovenis. We haven't talked about that. You probably remember Liz. Yeah. She was a long time president of NAACP, and John Knuckles. That was his district. If you've heard of, he was the first Black city councilman. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was their neighborhood, and so you did have a lot of, police officers, school teachers, and, educated people, and factory workers like my dad and a few other people. And there were still a few white people in the neighborhood, and their attitude was, "I've lived here before they came, I'm not going anywhere. But it was friendly though. It was, nobody gave them any issues.
And I think people who will tell you that they went to Central High School, because when I was the education reporter, I did a story on these people. Everybody got along.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it wasn't fractious and divided.
Yeah. So and you had people like Tom and Helen Brown in the neighborhood.
Okay.
I mean, who were pillars. Helen Brown, I feel bad not referring to her as Mrs. Brown.
She's the one that the natatorium is named for?
Precisely. And she ended up being on school board for quite a while. And then her son, who's a good friend of mine, Payne, was on school board thereafter. But
he was director of public safety back in the early 90s.
Yep. And so, and Tom wasn't having it any other way. He made sure that the kids in proximity to him, I mean, we were exposed to Camp Potawatomi. We were exposed to building rafts to participate. And Payne was in town. We buried one of the mothers from the neighborhood a couple of weeks ago. Talked about I should say, not building a raft for the Brewers Festival. The only black kids that had a raft entered, but it never finished. It would fall apart.
Along with a lot of other people.
Right, yeah,
I wouldn't worry about it.
It would fall apart. It was all fun, but we were exposed to a lot of things, and Mr. Brown, Tom Brown, made certain of that. That especially the boys in his orbit. Stayed out of trouble, and because there were still influences. Again, it was a solid neighborhood, but there were still the negative influences. Because Fort Wayne had just gone through, like a lot of other cities. I mean, when we moved here in 72-ish, 72, yeah. There had recently been
been the major desegregation of the high schools that occurred right in 71, 72, and I think that kind of coincided with the closure of Central and the opening of Northrop and Wayne, one on the north side, one on the south side, and really that's when they really started busing geographically to the different high schools.
Right.
I mean, it was a noble experiment, but when people look back, they wonder if that really was the right decision.
Well, that's also when I think a little bit before that or right after that is when they took Memorial Park, which had been considered an inner city kind of junior high school.
And made it a magnet.
To attract kids from all over.
Yeah,
well, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, they did the same thing with Weiser Park, and not too terribly long after I left Memorial Park, it became a magnet. But yeah, it was tense. It was a little tense when we got here, and again, we weren't accustomed to that. I mean, you walked to school, you went to school near where you lived, and a lot of people in the black community, like Helen Brown and others, they were pro-busing, pro-integration, and they were A-OK with busing to achieve that because they wanted African American kids exposed to the same or able to get the same education that white kids were. But there were significant voices in black communities around the country where busing was going on to achieve desegregation, and said, wait a minute, you're going to cause a further deterioration of these neighborhoods because what's going to happen is the blacks who can afford it are going to leave those neighborhoods and move out closer to these schools. And that did happen to a large extent.
It's, I know I'm torn in my thinking about it, and I'm sure a lot of other people are too.
Yeah.
So you went to Northrop, did you enjoy it?
Totally. I did sports. I did basketball, cross country, track at Northrop. So, you're in the sports, you were kind of popular and all that. Yeah, so
you are okay. He was a party boy.
I said popular, not the partying didn't come until I went to IU and joined a fraternity. So.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about the fraternity.
Much later.
Which one did you join down there?
It's a fraternity called Phi Beta Sigma, one of the we call them the Divine Nine. The 9 historically African American fraternities and sororities. The first of which was Phi Alpha, which it's notable because Martin Luther King was a member. 1907, out in Ithaca, New York. Cornell is Ithaca, right? Yeah.
That's where Cornell is, yeah.
One of them was founded right there in Bloomington, though. 1911, Kappa Alpha Psi.
Yeah, I mean, IU was kind of forward thinking.
Oh yeah, that Neil Marshall alumni club. It's in the center down there now, dedicated to them, and the Divine Nine. It's right there near the Performing Arts Center. It's really nice.
So, were you ever any part of a stepping group by any chance?
You had, if you were in a black fraternity or sorority,
I love that.
You had to step. You had no choice but to steps, which has roots in African expressions and dance and all that.
Well, there was one girl who started a charter school here. It's no longer, unfortunately, and she had people stepping. I mean, this was like 10 years ago, all over the country, and I wonder if sometimes activities like that, not to get too far off the track here, would be great to bring up with our young black people here, the kids that are getting in trouble, the kids that are getting drugs, and guns and everything else. Let's just get them stepping, man.
There is a little bit of effort. You can teach them one of
the Divine Nine steps.
There may be some reluctance from the fraternities and sororities to go that far, but they can expose them to it, because actually there's now in Fort Wayne, for the first time, and I believe maybe ever, there is a chapter of what we call the National Panhellenic Council, which is if you have active graduate chapters from all the organizations, you can have a National Panhell Council. And in Fort Wayne, there are now active chapters of each of the 9 of those organizations. And they are meeting, and they're young people, much younger than me, and hats off to them, because they are meeting and they are starting to do, food drives, clothing drives, and an annual.
Have they had a cotillion yet?
That's a separate thing.
Okay.
The cotillion, that's been around forever. That's bougie.
Well, we like the bougie, though, do we not? Let's bring up Fort Wayne to be bougie.
And what I would like to see the Divine Nine do.
I was a Kappa Gamma. I know about this stuff.
Yeah. I would like to see them start doing more outreach into the youth communities and exposing them to college type things and the Greek, what we call the Greek life.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
So let's go on to IU. We know that you were having a great time down there, and one of the Divine Nine. Don't ask me to repeat the name right now. Alpha, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so you graduate from IU and you go to Ohio Northern University, Pettit College of Law. Was that right after you graduated from IU, or did you take a break and work for a while?
I went straight from Northrop to a week after I graduated. The group's summer program started. So I went to Bloomington a week after I graduated at Northrop. I was there for 4 years.
Okay.
Studied economics through the business school there.
Nice.
And I didn't have a lot of fun because I, again, had law school on my mind. I knew I needed certain grades, and the business school wasn't exactly easy. And as a matter of fact,
no, it's not.
The way I found myself into a fraternity, these football players were members of the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and they were on the bubble of getting on academic probation. So they went out and recruited, and we didn't know it at the time. My friends, they recruited like these 4 nerdy black dudes.
One of them who was you?
Exactly. Oh. And to boost their GPA, the average GPA for the chapter, so they didn't get put on academic probation, which we found out after we finished the process of becoming members. And they immediately made me president and put my other people that came in with me into positions in it. And we started communicating with, I forget what it's called, whatever the university governing body is for the Greek letter organization. It was like, they used us,
And yet, looking back, I'm sure you had some good times.
We had a great time. But yeah, then went straight to Ohio Northern. which was it's culture shock in a different way. I mean, IU is big, diverse campus, and I went to ONU literally in the middle of a cornfield. I think IU had 35,000 undergrads at that time and 5 or 10 grad students. ONU, I think, had a total of 2,500, 400 of which were in the law school.
That's it?
Yeah.
But where is it in Ohio?
Ada, Ohio.
Yeah.
Ada, Ohio?
Yeah.
What's the biggest
Don't blink.
Lima.
Oh, hey. Now you're talking.
It's
Not exactly bougie, but I don't mean anything against anybody who's from Lima. So.
Well, we call this Lima, but there's that. Yeah.
So, I mean, did you also go to law school with the intent of becoming a criminal defense attorney?
I thought I was.
I'm sure you wanted to be a prosecutor right off the bat.
I enjoyed the constitutional law. I really did. I enjoyed the civil rights law. I took those courses, but with my business background, having come out of I used business school, I took commercial paper and corporate law and those sorts of things. I honestly thought I was gonna end up maybe somewhere like Lincoln Life as a corporate lawyer, because again, going back to that neighborhood, we had Art Page, who was a corporate attorney at Lincoln Life, and a couple others, and you know, we can get into that. When I graduated law school, or you know, if you want to fast forward to that, I left ONU thinking I may become a corporate lawyer.
Where you can make some big bucks.
Yeah, but
Well, I think the recruiting of a national corporation was different than even a large law firm in a city like Fort Wayne. That
You think they were
they were all
out?
white males as partners.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think women went through a lot of the same thing, that it was easier, the job market was open in corporate America more and in government work than it was in the private law firm.
That's spot on, because my cousins in Birmingham and Atlanta, I still have a ton of family down there. They begged me to not come to Fort Wayne to practice. They were like, "You need to come south. You need to come south." I didn't listen. I wanted to come back here, and I did.
Well, your mom and dad were here.
Yes, and again, my dad had some brothers here and a couple sisters, and I had a lot of cousins here and all that, and but that was.
It almost sounds like a Medea movie. If anybody's ever seen one of those,
there would be
Tyler Perry should be contacting you.
there would be no men in dresses in my family, though. I mean, nothing
What do you
against.
mean? I thought that was really Medea.
Nothing against that, but.
Oh, he's great. Oh my gosh, he's great.
Yeah, he wouldn't. I
Never.
don't know what I can say on this thing.
You can say whatever you want.
Anyways, yeah, but to Mike's point, I quickly learned all that. I mean, Eugene Parker was the only African American working for a law firm in this town at the time. The only other one that had worked for, I'm talking mid-sized to larger firms, even smaller civil firms. I mean, it's nobody. Leslie Miller's dad, Dave Miller, had worked for the Lebemoff firm, and he ultimately became a federal attorney, U.S. attorney down here, and the supervisor of the Fort Wayne division. But other than those two people, I mean, the firms here in town were not hiring black people. They just weren't. Again, Lincoln Life, there were
some black attorneys.
And I think, I can't remember her name, but one of the other insurance companies had an African-American attorney in-house as well. But other than that, there were 4 or 5 at Lincoln Life, but then there were a lot of black attorneys that had practices here in Fort Wayne. I remember...
Do you think it was like the Old Boy Network, maybe, I mean,
I'll tell you,
You would have a better sense.
Yeah, I'll tell you. remember the Inns of Courts? I think it's still around. It started when I was a year or two out of law school, and Judge Lee and Cosby, Magistrate Cosby, for some reason they always liked me, and they were always supportive, and they got me into the Inns of Courts, and we would break into groups and have these discussions, and I don't remember which older attorney it was, but you had attorneys from the biggest, best firms in town, and it was said that the reason that those firms don't have African Americans working for them is not that the firms don't want to hire them, it's just that the clients would have a problem with it. Yes. But
That's
and
sad.
and there hasn't been a sea change. It's been incremental change. I know Ed Harris from Community Corrections. His daughter worked for one of the major firms around here, and she's young. She's probably right around 5-7 years out of law school. She's now in-house counsel with the Chicago Bears,
Nice.
soon to be the Indiana Bears, right?
I guess.
and I think it's Barnes. Dawn Westphal. She's a partner over there, you know, and they've had they may have another African American attorney there, but other than that,
there were a handful, and then Judge Briggs was
right.
the first African American judge,
Right.
and he was
Right.
appointed in '85, roughly.
from my neighborhood. His family lived across the street from.
And he was in
yeah.
which court was he a judge?
Family relations. Yeah.
And like Judge Morgan now, her mom was a nurse, I believe, and then went to law school later.
Yeah.
And she practiced for a long
Right.
time.
Which I was going to say, when I was in law school, there was a Black Bar Association chapter of the National Bar Association. You know, the ABA, the NBA is a nationwide organization of African American attorneys. There was a chapter here, and Payne and Lewis Griffin.
Yeah.
There were we counted them. There were 30-odd Black attorneys in town. In the late 80s, as I was graduating law school and coming into the practice in 1990.
Do you know how many we have now?
I probably 10 or less.
I'm glad you brought this up because I did some data digging, which I love to do. Now, according to the Allen County Bar Association, there are over 800 attorneys in Allen County. The Black population, which never changes no matter the percentage, even though the numbers in Allen County have gone way up. You know, we've added a lot of people. I have the numbers right here, but anyway, we're close to 400,000. It's between 11 and 12%. If you take 11% of 800, you're going to come about 88 attorneys. And who was I talking to this week? And we were trying to count them. Oh, I think it was Stacy's mother. And, it was like, I know you. I know Tyree Barfield, and then I'm stuck.
I was so happy. And we can do this. I mean, because I've had this conversation with folk over time. Again, I'd say 10, give or take. You got myself, Tyree, Tom Essex, Tasha, and see already I'm starting to have to think about it. If you want to count Lori, the judge, okay.
Lori Morgan, family relations.
And Dawn Westphal, she's still over there at Barnes. And
You're talking
I'm not
about
sure April Underwood is in town.
she's gone to Indy, I heard.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
which I think Indy probably looks a lot better when you're talking about percentage of Black attorneys.
And I don't know that we would know who's at Lincoln Life.
Right. And Paula's retired. Paula. Brother's a doctor.
Yeah.
Paula McGee. But if you want to throw her in there, I mean, we're at 7.
Robert is basically retired.
Same thing. Yeah. I mean, so that we're up to 8. I mean, I don't know, particularly after the downsizing that Lincoln's done. I don't know that
how big their law department is.
Yeah, or there any.
So most of them were shipped off to Mainline and Philadelphia and places like that. And
Cliff Files and Reba Knox Files, they were a husband and wife attorneys here. They split, but Cliff ended up in D.C. practicing, and Reba ended up in Atlanta. Teaching in Atlanta.
Because she worked for us.
Yeah. So I mean, and I'm still trying to wreck my brain to go through and think of some more. Yeah. So there, over the last 35 years, there are fewer now than when I came into the practice.
See, so that's crazy. So I looked at the jail count today, and this is one of the reasons I think it would be nicer to have more black attorneys. Your criminal defense, we have maybe some in corporate. Today there were...
I just thought of two more.
Go ahead.
But he works for... Charlie Pratt retired. He's a short guy. DeMarcus, yes. And
he works for DCS.
Right. And there's another young lady who used to work for probation. Okay. She's graduated law school. I don't know if she's passed the bar. And there are two young ladies that's in that category.
And then will they stay in Fort Wayne? That's the other.
They're here right now.
Okay.
So yeah, but that puts us up to around that 10 mark.
And so we're supposed to be really pushing 90. You know, let's go back to the jail now, just because I always love to talk about the jail. We've got about 743 people, including in lockup today, which is February 24th. We have 363 African Americans incarcerated there, 298 white. So right there's an imbalance, 53 Hispanic and 29 Asian, which I figure probably most of them are Burmese. So more than half the total population in the jail is black. And it's pretty easy to see that when you're sitting in the courtroom too. So the question arises, why don't we have any more black lawyers, and what can we do to get more black lawyers? Because I just think that diversity, and I was a little bit concerned last night when I was watching the State of the Union address. President Trump said, yeah, we've gotten rid of DEI, and half of the hall stands up and goes, yay, like that. That hurts. I mean, we need to appreciate DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And
I think that's a loaded conversation, because what happens with the DEI and it.
Yeah, but think of it this way: when did they start admitting black students to law school? They got turned away. Something had to happen. Push that there.
Well, yeah, you're talking pre-60s, 70s. And I looked at some stats myself last night after or the night before. I think I texted you and asked you what the topic was going to be.
Right.
Enrollment for African Americans in law school kind of increased, it increased a little in the 60s, a lot in the 70s and 80s. But then it kind of plateaued and became stagnant in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about huge numbers. It percolated, I'd have to find those stats, up to around, again, 7 to 10%.
Right now it's supposedly at 7.6%.
I was going to get there, yeah. And decreasing again now, though.
That's not good.
From what I've seen, and particularly amongst African American men, the numbers are dropping now, especially at your Ivy League schools. And the numbers, though, are increasing a little bit for African American females. So it's a nationwide phenomenon. It's not just an issue that is endemic to Fort Wayne. Wayne.
Oh no!
It's just a snapshot of what's going on across the country here in Fort Wayne, and a lot of it has been the erosion of all of the policies and incentives that were in place for universities to attract African American students. But a lot of people have this notion, if you can allow me to talk about this for just a minute.
Of course.
It goes to the problem that DEI became, and problem may not be the best word You go back to affirmative action. People started saying, well, that's a quota bill. We need to get rid of. We can't force companies to hire unqualified African Americans. Affirmative action back then, the country was basically black and white for the most part. In most places, other places more diverse with Hispanics as well. But affirmative action never required any company or institution to hire unqualified African American males or females or anybody. It only required you to have a goal to make your workforce look like the community in which you operated in.
And there were incentives to do that.
If you operated, if you received government contracts in excess of $100,000 a year, you had to make efforts to make your workforce look like the community that you operated in. But if you didn't, you weren't penalized. So the notion that it required people to hire unqualified people was just false. But
not necessarily the thinking of a lot of white people.
Well, that's exactly.
They had to battle
a lot of people just wanted it gone, and that was the same thing with what a lot of the universities around the country did in terms of setting aside so many spaces for African American students, which ended they had to scrap all of those sorts of which even set aside for contracting. Fort Wayne, once upon a time, reserved, I think, 10 or 15% of contract
minority and women-owned business.
Yeah, and then that became, it's not a thing anymore. And as soon as those sorts of programs evaporated, so did the minority contractors, and it had an impact in the education system and the enrollment. Some schools got creative and said, well, in our state, we're going to take the top 10% of students. If you're in the top 10% of your class from whatever school you attend, you can come here. Which if that meant even if you were a student at an inner city school and you were in the top 10%, it was race neutral on its face, and those sort of things survive scrutiny. But in even a lot of black people now, I mean, they have a problem with the rest of the things that have been lumped in with diversity, equity, and inclusion, like the gender issues, so on and so forth. And I think because it became such a big tent, it was easier to justify dismantling it. Not to say that it should have been dismantled. I believe in diversity, I believe in equity, and I believe in inclusion. I think it's the only way America can operate because we are a diverse country. And
we have to embrace it, really.
It always it makes me scratch my head when people say they don't believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion on its face. Do I believe that people should be required to hire unqualified people to meet quotas and goals and all that? No, that's not right either. But
that was always going back to the old argument. Well, if you can find somebody who's qualified, that kind of thing. I used to hear that.
But it's never. But then it's never a meritocracy truly, because you see the amount of nepotism and things that go on that if you live in a city like Fort Wayne where for a long time you had no minorities working in city county government. How are you going to have an uncle that can get you in or not that can get you in somewhere? It's not going to happen.
Right.
And I think that's part of the reason why you can walk through those buildings and there are departments in Fort Wayne, Indiana, that's about 20% minority across the board, all minorities.
Right. It's like 11 to 12%
African American.
County.
Yeah.
Cities higher.
Yeah, but you can there are a lot of departments that have zero minorities working in them. I mean, even our misdemeanor court clerk's office now have zero minorities working in there.
Yeah, see, that hurts. We are 8.5% Hispanic, 4.7% Asian.
Yeah.
and then it says 11.5% black.
Is that Fort Wayne or Allen County?
I believe that's Allen County.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's interesting on some of these, I remember in my law school class, they kind of celebrated in the fall of 1978 that we had hit 25% of the incoming class was women. And those numbers have continued to grow. Kind of, again, women were very much, I think, minorities in terms of the law schools through, and the 60s started changing that, the 70s into the 80s, and now I believe it's over 50% of law students. So, you know, I'm not sure why, because I don't think there's many particularly black men, wanting to be lawyers. And yet, when I look at the criminal justice system, the part why I want a diverse staff is for the numbers you showed of, you know, we're based on credibility. The people have to trust us. The defendants have to trust that we're going to be fair. Juries have to trust that we're going to be fair. If we come in always prosecuting the black kid and everybody else in the courtroom is white, their lawyer, our lawyers, the judge, you know, they feel like stranger in a strange land and that they're going to get screwed. And I mean, for 40 years, it's not like these obvious optics haven't been there from the first time I walked into a criminal courtroom.
Which, and that dovetails nicely into the point I was trying to make and pointing out the lack of diversity, you know, across so much of our city county government. And you look at when I started, I mean, there were black bailiffs, court reporters. There were African American male probation officers. You know, there were. Now they're gone. I mean, until the current sheriff came back, and I'm not trying to disparage or cast aspersion on anyone that has, you know, been sheriff or prosecutor or whatever, but I remember about a year ago, I saw black bailiffs in the courtroom again, maybe two now, and I was like, it threw me, because it had been years and years and years since Art, I forget his last name, and Angie, these are they were black bailiffs and a couple others. This was way back in the 90s, and in the civil court, and I mean, like Renee and the young lady over in Circuit. I mean, the court reporters there, and there were just more black faces in the apparatus, and Mike, the prosecutor's office under your tenure is more diverse.
Now, there are also in the juries. I mean, I've noticed this just sitting there as times the lone journalist.
Yeah,
but it's like, oh, hey, they got a black juror today, you know.
Yeah, but to your point, though, I mean, I don't know that it's an issue of African American men not wanting to be lawyers. I think they want to be, but the question is, do they understand and what it takes to become an attorney, and are they willing to go through, you know, what it takes to become, wanting to do something and actually going out and doing it.
Or put that idea in their heads.
And then doing what I did and a few of us have done, come to a city like Fort Wayne to practice. That's what Karen and I always talked about. She always talked about her struggles in actually recruiting somebody who wants to, African American male or female alike. It's just difficult, you know, selling Fort Wayne over like an Indy or
Chicago, Indy, Atlanta.
Yeah. Shaq, when she worked for us and left, I think partially because there weren't a lot of professional African American men.
Correct.
And she moved to Dallas. Now she's a judge down there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Well, here's some significant disparities, my dears. In law school admission test scores, high financial debt. This is why I advocate for a law school here. Limited mentorship and the recent ban on affirmative action, which we already talked about. But these are significant disparities, and this comes from the New York Times, apparently.
You do know we tried the law school here thing, right?
Right, and so we were chatting about that before you walked in, Mike and I was saying, well, if we can't get IU interested, could we get like a consortium of schools around here, or maybe talk to the Fort Wayne or Allen County Bar Association now to see.
Well,
I know people are interested.
Law schools are just now, I believe, rebounding from back in, even before that, back in 09, 10.
Oh, yeah.
When the economy imploded. There were so many law jobs shedded that law schools then started suffering from a lack of enrollment. Schools like Washington University in St. Louis, they had an abysmal placement rate. Decent school closed down.
Wow, yeah.
Valpo closed down.
Yes.
I mean, there have been a lot
Valparaiso School of Law, yeah.
Yeah.
Before, maybe some people don't know.
And the budding law school here in Fort Wayne, I mean, those were just snapshots of what was going on around the country, the extent to which it had become so difficult for people graduating law school to find work. And so enrollment plummeted. So you add that on to all the other things that you've mentioned.
Well, there's also limited access to financial aid for law school. The risk of not obtaining a high-paying job.
That's what I was just talking about, yeah.
Educational pipeline inequities, lower representation of Black students in undergraduate programs affects the pool of applicants for law schools. So it's like when you talk about the Divine Nine and you have a Panhellenic Council here and everything else now, maybe they could take on mentorship, which I just mentioned, sort of mentoring.
And there's some effort in that
kids.
regard. I did my first internship last summer of a young person who is a senior now at IU Indy and going to law school next summer. So, and hopefully, and there's another organization that not for profit, that I am a member of, and it's backed by Bill Bean and Chuck Zorak largely, but we give away, we're up to 4 $1,000 scholarships. We want to double that this year. And
for undergrad?
For undergrad right now, but we want to start providing monies to people who are in grad. We had our first person that was with us all 4 years that graduated and went to grad school actually, and we couldn't fund that person because we only had sufficient funds for the 4 freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
Well, I do want to point out that law school is going to cost you between $100,000 and $150,000.
Yes, I know. The little $1,000 we give away is pocket money. But to your point about mentoring, we try and add that component as well, is where I was headed.
Here's some other barriers that I found: unconscious racism, lack of mentorship, which we already said, and a perceived lack of belonging in the legal profession discourage enrollment. So they might not even think, hey, this could be a career for me. This is why I'm saying if we had a law school here, it isn't just offering a chance to become an attorney, but like you said, probation, criminal justice, all those kind of things. That paralegals. Do you have a paralegal? Do you rely on?
I do. Mm-hmm.
See, I mean, a good paralegal is worth a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I know,
Tell me I know.
Yeah, you don't want to be losing that person. I mean, and
but I mean, to some of those points too, I think some of those things are more common or problematic in a city like Fort Wayne. You go to a city like Atlanta. I mean, that Atlanta, Birmingham is going to be my frame of reference. I mean, you have students like I would have gone from preschool through high school attending all black schools, essentially. and I probably would have gone on to an HBCU. I have family that did that, and they have PhDs now. One is a partner with a firm in Atlanta that has offices around the country.
Well, Atlanta is home. We know that. You know
Birmingham is home, but
Birmingham.
but
No, I'm talking about for Black people.
It's a hub.
Atlanta is.
and that's my point. That's my point. You see more young Black people who are exposed more, and do believe that they can, because they see so many other Black people.
Right.
But Fort Wayne, if someone sees
Hasn't created.
myself and Tyree, they're gonna look at us like we're exceptions.
Well, and we have Tasha and Catherine.
Yeah. I forgot about Catherine.
Yeah.
That's 11. We're up to 11 now.
Wow.
And that's counting 2 retired.
Well, we can't solve it sitting here, but we can certainly throw out ideas.
Yeah, I think mentoring and exposure. There isn't, with all of these mentoring and organizations that are doing great work and trying to reach out. What Joe Jordan is doing over at the Boys and Girls Club.
That would be a great place to encourage and mentor future attorneys for
I'm
this
doing
city.
this thing. Judge Davis reached out to me and got me involved in this tie-day thing where that has a mentoring component. But I think that there's so many different efforts being made as opposed to one big inclusive umbrella where you have a lot of people mentoring a lot of children with the same agenda. In a city like Fort Wayne, I think that's what it's going to take. In Florida, for example, and actually, it was something that was largely supported. It goes back during the Jeb Bush era. It was they wanted to recruit like 100 mentors or something like that and mentor these kids, and they're up to like thousands in the Miami area. And,
That's the thing. If you initiate some of these programs, somebody has to stick with them.
Yeah, but the
And they
point
have
in
to
mentioning-
invest in
I was going to say the point in mentioning that Jeb Bush had supported it. It was funded. It was funded well, and it is making has made strides over the years of really getting and keeping particularly kids from challenged demographics on track and into the educational system and on the college. There's a similar one in Oakland, California.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
And I wonder, do we need to reach into the high schools when kids are first starting to think about, gee, what am I going to do when I grow up? And do they even think of being a lawyer? You know, with all the lawyer shows on TV and stuff, you'd think that would be one, but maybe it's something that gets rejected early.
Well, Indy has
And-
that. Indy has that charter school that's going to be called Legal Prep or something.
And there's so
Wouldn't
many,
that be great if that would come here?
And there's so many negative things, culturally speaking, that they're bombarded with. That, you know, I think subconsciously young people start thinking that they fit into this segment of the system, not these other segments, i.e., you know, the defendant, not the prosecutor or defense lawyer.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, when you think about it, even the southeast side, 46806 is like 50% Black, 25% Hispanic, and 25% white, as I've done stories on that. So if you go in there, you think about this tiny percentage of kids with guns and drugs, very tiny percentage that's causing all the ruckus. There's a whole bunch of kids in there we're not reaching. And wouldn't it be great?
It'd be better than great, yeah. And that's interesting because I'd like to see the numbers on my old 46803.
Oh, that's very poor. That's the highest poverty rate.
Yeah, now. And I remember.
But there's a lot of white people who live in 46803.
Now, again, yeah, because of what they've done, tech has caused a lot of students to move into that area. And downtown, down the Berry and Wayne corridor, there are a lot of new homes that were built, and a lot of those infill lots where homes that had been torn down. There are a couple of friends of mine, they still own houses, their childhood homes in that area. and one guy in particular owns his childhood home and the home of two of his uncles,
Oh, it's got like a compound.
in the same area, and his brother owns another house yet over there, and so does his sister. His brother and sister still live over there, and they ain't going nowhere. I mean, but
that whole area just right around Indiana Tech is kind of nice.
Yeah,
those homes are bigger and.
Oh yeah, they were beautiful homes.
Oh yeah, I mean they still are.
You go a little due south from there is where we were.
It's when you travel down Maumee that it gets like pretty desperate.
Yeah, and now though there are a lot of Hispanics and Burmese in that neighborhood. I pulled up there, and I was looking at the house I grew up and moved to after we moved here. And this Mexican family walked out, and I didn't realize I was just staring at their house, and they probably realized, they probably was wondering what the heck is this guy doing, and I finally said, oh no, I used to live here,
So did you drive up in your Tesla, or I'm sorry, whatever you're driving right now, and your fancy suit and everything else?
I did.
You could have mentored them. You could have made them, inspired them. Yeah, well, let's talk about Quinton Ellis. What music do you listen to, Mr. Ellis?
John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Steely Dan.
Very good. I like
Boz Scaggs. I have very eclectic taste.
But do you move into rap at all?
We kind of talked about this. My generation basically were my generation and a few years older. I mean, they started the whole rap thing, and it started.
Is this Flava Flav?
It started out kind of fun and all that, But
started out kind of fun. Those people were in the streets of New York City, and they were talking about what they were going through.
Well, that came later. And that's where the whole debate started. A lot of people were angry at these kids for the lyrics, and their defense was, well, I'm just talking about what I see going on around me. And it's like, no, you're glorifying what you see going on around you.
So, they're not glorifying it. I had a friend once who said, oh, they just create that music because the white boys end up liking it so much. I thought, you must be crazy. They're singing. You sing about listen to my song, The Probable Cause. I don't know if you've ever listened to my song, Ella.
Not yet. I will forthwith.
But it poured out of me. I spent months writing it, but it's what I see.
Yeah. No, they were.
I haven't experienced that. I was never on fentanyl.
Yeah. They were glorifying it. They were glorifying violence, drug dealing, all that. There's no two ways about it. Again, their position was, we're just talking about what we go through every day. But they did it in a very sultry way, a very seductive way that...
Oh, the beats, you can't beat them.
Yeah.
They're just fantastic.
And I think a lot of young people who are listening to these lyrics and this music inculcated that into their, approach on life. There's no two ways about it.
Well, haven't you noticed that all the slang has been borrowed by the white boys and the girls? Do you when you hear somebody going, yeah, bruh, like that? I mean, come on, that must make you okay.
Doesn't that go back to the jazz era? Even
oh, yeah.
I mean,
you probably could go back to the guy with ragtime.
Yeah. But see, the difference though in that music though, guys were putting on suit and tie, and they were playing their saxophones and trumpet and whatever. It was different. And a lot of my friends, I mean, we didn't listen to what they ended up calling the gangster rap and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there was some, again, that was more mainstream and less destructive. You know, that you go to a party and dance to, and and the girls liked it. Because back then the girls didn't really like that gangster rap stuff because they were, I mean, all the misogyny in those lyrics and all.
Oh yeah.
But now, but then that slowly evolved. I mean,
they took it over and made their own
exactly.
songs.
Yeah. So it is very.
I don't know. I like Tupac. He doesn't. I don't think he glorifies.
Well, I know you've been a regular at New Orleans Jazz Fest for years.
Oh, have you really?
Oh yeah, since since '93, I believe I've gone every year except the pandemic year, the 2 years after Katrina, because there was no Jazz Fest,
Right, there wouldn't have
and
been.
and then the couple years during the COVID era.
Do you play anything?
I I played a bass in junior high. Junior high, yeah. I never learned to read music. I just would play by ear, and that's when I hung out and played with G Money and those.
God bless G Money. May he rest in peace.
He grew up on my street, a couple blocks from me. So those were the.
But it's just like street dance. You don't really have to learn. If you're talented enough to just pick it up, then it's just, you got to enjoy it. That's what I think.
Yeah, and again,
We don't do enough of that in America. We're too serious. So that's what you've got on your fancy EV when you're going around the neighborhoods, John Coltrane.
Coltrane is my guy, and Miles Davis. If I I like reggae too. I listen to Bob Marley
Yeah, he's great.
a lot, and then the old Motown stuff. Love that stuff, and the Stax. I love that stuff, and that's why my mom played that stuff in the house when I was a kid. But and I kind of got her taste in music because she listened to she's a blues woman, and I remember one day she's playing the blues. I was like, "Well, why are you playing? Why?" She just told me, "Boy, you was born and bred on the blues. you better learn to like it." And I learned to like the blues after
Who the
that.
heck doesn't like the blues? I mean, come on.
I mean, as a kid, it's I don't know. It's kind of different, I always thought it was kind of sad.
Is there actually anybody who exists who actually likes elevator music?
Which is not
turns out hot
jazz.
in their house.
which is not jazz. A lot of people, I say I
Who the
like.
heck came up with that?
Yeah.
But
I say I
never
like
mind.
jazz. A lot of people think of elevator music. No.
Oh no, I mean, it's just what stage of jazz. My husband's a jazz musician. He likes the American Songbook. And all I do is I complain you can't really dance to it, but it's fine. You're not going to hear that in a Zumba class, but All right, you guys, you've had all your fun. What haven't we covered about the topic that we really wanted to get into, and maybe something will come out of this discussion? I always like to leave the last word to Mike or my guest.
I'm going to defer to Mike on
Well,
this one.
I mean, I think our goal always is to how do we improve the criminal justice system? What do we do to gain more trust, whether it's having witnesses come forward when bad things happen? How do we keep people from wandering into the criminal justice system, all the accusations of, school to prison pipeline kind of thing? And yet when you look at the numbers, particularly of minorities that are in the system,
Right.
how does that get reversed? Is that something that goes back to the family, goes back to the churches? I don't know that anybody has those magic answers. I mean, I always enjoy watching those programs that, whether it's 60 Minutes, has somebody who's gone in and teach violin to inner city kids, and it changes the dynamic. How come we haven't figured out how to replicate those things in Fort Wayne and throughout the country? How do we grab a hold of kids and put them on a path that isn't dependent on the hopelessness of drugs and stealing things or ripping stuff off, or the gang culture, or all of that.
Getting a gun, stealing
I mean,
a gun.
we know peer pressure is important. When I was a kid, it was Boy Scouts.
Oh, forget that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. That was kind of the peer thing to do.
Yeah.
Everybody joined Boy Scouts.
Yeah, you take a kid young enough, because even where I grew up, that we had a ragtag scout troop over there, where we'd go to the scout camp, and I think we just had the hat. We didn't have the whole uniform, but kids would be, if you expose them to some of these things, I think they would be interested in some of these things, because you're talking about, especially when you're talking about that 8 to 12 years old.
Yes, that crucial time.
And they're innocent still, and you can still shape them. It's once they start getting into those teenage years is when, if you haven't reached them by then, you may lose them.
I know.
Unless again they're from a family, they have the family structure. And it could be a single mother. I mean, the woman we laid to rest, Martha Curry, a couple of weeks ago, she was one of the few back then single parents in the neighborhood. But her husband, who had graduated college, they were high school sweethearts at Central. He came back from college and married her. And then he got killed in a car accident.
Oh, man.
And she had 2 kids that were like 2 and 3 years old. And she became, she went and took all these keyboarding and all these other courses in a law firm. I forget which one. There's an article, but I'm going to send you that article about her. Hired her as Fort Wayne's first black legal secretary.
Nice.
And she raised this boy and a girl, two of my very best friends in life. Still, the brother passed away, got killed in an accident like his dad did at a young age. But anyways, that strong person or parents that will provide that structure that's needed, and make sure that that young person stays on path and be a productive member of community. Everybody doesn't have to go to college or law school.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have a shortage of skilled trade people right now.
We do.
Be it plumbers, electricians, high-tech manufacturing, so on and so
Welders.
forth. Yeah, all of that. You're right. Something needs to happen, and I just think that it's a matter of taking the best approaches from around the country, and somebody saying, "Look, let's do this, around the country, so that we can lessen the burden on taxpayers housing, people that are arrested." For crimes and all the other associated ills. I mean, you got people going into the DCS system or children going into the DCS system and so on and so forth.
Which is such a mess.
Yeah. It's all a mess. But
We didn't really get to talk too much about your practice, unfortunately, but we all know that you're a criminal defense attorney in town.
I am. And
I would love to get a whole panel of them in here.
The only thing I throw out in that regard is it's tough, but occasionally I can get this prosecutor's office to understand that good people sometimes make bad decisions,
Stupid decisions.
and do in that moment bad things. Sometimes very bad things, but sometimes we shouldn't give up on them.
We shouldn't give up on them. And you did have you had something of a win in. I think it was last Thursday when I was in the courtroom. They didn't have a piece of paper that was signed. He was supposed to go back into incarceration, help me out here. And judge then agreed with you.
Which is rare too.
He said, well, I don't have a piece of paper here. It's not signed, so whatever. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that one.
Anyway, it's been fun. We need to have Quinton back. because, I mean, the history itself is so fascinating. But for now, we have gone on for quite a while. And I think maybe it's time to end this podcast just for the day, but you know, we'll all be back maybe in a different form. So with Mike McAlexander, Quinton Ellis, and myself, just remember that you can go. I wish I could get more of you to go to the Probable Cause page on Facebook, because I often put things on there. Like if I take scenes from a courtroom, I can't remember whether I added Quinton to that one or not. But anyway, you'll see those. I'm not putting those on my Facebook page, all right? Don't always go to my Facebook page, although I appreciate that you do. We also have a website, www.theprobablecause.com. It has all our podcasts, all the articles, everything else. You can listen to us on Apple and Spotify. And so for now, we're going to sign off, and we're all going to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
This episode is filmed and edited by Frosty Pictures. The Probable Cause is produced by Maumee Media.
Worried when I crossed the Michigan line, a cop from Steuben County waiting on I-69. A headlamp went out while he pulled me over. Charged me with possession after I rolled down the window. Now that's skunk. Indians a trick when it comes to weed. It's like who doesn't smoke or use gummies? Your grandpa, your brother, your rich friend from school? Hell, throw in the whole courthouse and my attorney too. It's time those assholes change these stupid laws. It ain't worth the paper for a probable cause. Sitting on a bar stool in my usual place, this guy next to me said he was looking for some cocaine. Hell, I just sold him an 8-ball with a little piece off for me. But my buyer was a cop? Should have known he was a creep. So I'm a dealer, right? You gotta be kidding. It's a rich man's drug. I just take it because I'm injured. 8 years in Westville with a monkey on my back. There's more drugs in here than you can shake a shank at. One dirty drug test, man, this system's flawed. Undercover screwed me in my probable cause. Street crimes never did me no favors. I'm hooked on Fetty. I'm a junkie, not a felon. Told that son of a bitch on the way to lockup. I can't seem to shake it. I need help, not mocking. What do you want from someone who's been through the system? Drugs all through the house before mom and dad went to prison. Throw me in jail and give me a fine? Someday I'll be dead and away from your kind. Now I'm at the courthouse in front of a judge. Can't say my public defender cares for me much. Crimes are committed on both sides of the law. God help me now with this probable cause. C shift never gets old. Anything can happen when you're out on patrol. You think I'm just eating donuts, man? Give me a break. Nothing on this job is a piece of cake. Lights and sirens activated. This knucklehead wants to chase. Baby mama at the scene just spit in my face. Wife's worried that someday I won't be pulling up at all. You'll read about my killer in a probable cause. Man. She went through my phone and she seen my text. I told her forget it. It was just my ex. She took a swing and knocked me flat. Man, I went wild and hit her back. Judge slapped me with a no contact order. Now she's got the kids and she's staying with her mother. So she started it all and I have to take the fall. You can read my whole story in the probable cause. When I was young, caught a case for dealing and did my time. Yeah, I got a record, but I was doing fine. Running my own business on the southeast side. Yeah, I got a gun. I kept it on hand. Told the cop my reason, thought he'd understand. In this neighborhood, you need some protection. Attorney thought I could get just community corrections, but the judge decided to send me to prison. Can't get ahead no matter how hard I try. Read the probable cause, it'll make you cry.
Whispers and rumors that don't get reported. Stories I write that are often distorted. Got my notebook and pen, and I'm ready to listen. Tell me the truth, I'll consider your position. I've seen killers with eyes so cold and dead, and others go to prison because of what someone said, rotting away for the rest of their lives, leaving a hole here on the outside. Things are sad here on Earth, and it's no wonder why, when you consider the sociopaths who remain in charge. It's me who sees the system for all its flaws, and I usually start with the probable cause. My right hand is reading the probable cause.